Okay, this is a lesson video for your Introduction to Coastal Landscapes, which is assignment 3A. And in this lesson, you have moved from thinking about glacial erosion features and looking at a glacial landscape to a totally different type of landscape, in this case, coastal landscape. Now, at the start of this lesson, if you haven't done so already, you must watch this introduction video, which will take you through the main processes involved in coastal landscapes and give you an idea about what we are studying. Okay, and the first skill that we need to identify when we approach this particular area of the topic is, can we actually name the features we're looking at? So let's just have a little look down at the erosional features that make up a coastal landscape, many of which you will be familiar with. And I'll talk a little bit about each one, and it will help you complete each of the tasks as we go through today's lesson. Okay, so following this video is going to help you answer the tasks quickly and efficiently. So in the first photograph, we can see a very common landscape feature. There are actually two features in this diagram. In this photograph. We can see the vertical cliffs. So we have some sea cliffs here. And at the base of those cliffs, we have what used to be the cliff, sometimes thought of as kind of as the stump of the ancient cliff, which is now collapsed, called the wave cut platform. So feature A is the cliff and wave cut platform, and those two features go together. You'll always find one and the other together. Feature number B also has two landscape features in it. So we can see a large piece of land sticking out to sea, and where the photographer was taking this is also one of those. These are called the headlands. And then we have a bit of land over here with a beach at the back of it, and this is called the bay. So the bay is a piece of land that is curving in on the coast, and the headland is a bit of land sticking out to sea. We often find lighthouses on headlands, and we often found holiday resorts and towns in bays with beaches. Okay, so B is the headland and bay. Right, in C, we obviously do have a cliff in C. We can see these white chalk cliffs here, but the main features we're focusing in on in C are these impressive features, often very attractive to tourists and draw people from all around the world. So we have the natural arch, which we can just see there on our picture. We can see another large natural arch here. And we've got a sea stack right here. And when a sea stack falls over, it becomes a very small little stump like we can see here. So we have the natural arch and stack. And these are always found on the end of headlands. So very often at the end of this particular headland here, you might find a little sea stack and natural arch. But picture C is a sea stack and natural arch. And actually D, we can see here, it's a cave. So on picture C, we can actually see D. So that is just enlarged. Picture D is an enlarged version of what we can see in picture C. And we have a cave. And we need to understand caves because caves are the starting point for what ends up being the natural arch and then the stack. But we'll be doing that in a later lesson. Okay, so that is your four erosional features. All of these are created by the sea eroding. Okay, and in future lessons we'll be looking at sea erosion. Let's have a little look at a diagram which includes these four features. And I've kind of split them up here. Okay, so you will see image number 1, piece of land sticking out to sea. We've also got one over here. On number 2, an area of land curving in on the coast. Number 3, a vertical rise on the coast. Number 4 is the feature that's connected to number 3, that is the base of number 3. After the number 3 is collapsed, that's number 4. Number 5 is where the sea starts to erode under feature number 3. Number 6 is where it erodes all the way through, creating kind of a curved area of coast that you could actually sail through. That's 6. And number 7 is left alone. It's part of number 1, but it's now broken off and it's standing up on its own. So that's all linked to the previous part of this lesson. So you can now go ahead and complete task number 2, where you identify each of these features listed here that I've just described to you. You've got to match them with the photograph. All right, let's move on to depositional features. So what happens when the sea loses energy and drops material? Because that's what a depositional feature is. So here we have the most common one and probably one of the most attractive coastal landscape features on the planet. It draws millions of people towards it. It is quite naturally the beach. And a beach is just made up of billions of grains of very small particles of rock that we call sand that accumulate because the waves have dropped them there. Okay, so that is E. Now F is actually a beach, but it's a very special type of beach because it's a beach that's grown across a bay. Okay, so if I just scroll up for a second to show you a bay in a photograph, which doesn't have a beach going across it. Okay, so here is a bay. Now imagine a beach grew right across this bay here. Okay, so the water in the bay would now be trapped. It would be separate from the sea. Now, if that happens, and there's certain things that occur for that to happen, we end up with this feature, which is called a sandbar. So it's a beach that grows across a bay. And because it's grown across the bay, the water in the bay is now trapped behind it, which we can see here, and that's what we call a lagoon. So we have a sandbar and a lagoon, and that's feature F. So here's feature G, a really unusual feature. This is it actually here. So it's when a beach grows around in a massive curve, and it almost has joined up to the other side of this bay here, but it's not quite made it, and there's reasons for that. This is called a sand spit. So I'm just indicating where the sand spit is in the photograph, and here we've got kind of a marshy salt marsh that's built up behind the sand spit. And finally, H is also an unusual feature. Here we actually have an island, but a beach has grown out to this island and has actually connected the island. And during a low tide, it's possible to walk from the mainland, which is down at the bottom of the photograph, over to the island. During a high tide, it's likely the sea will have gone over the beach here, and this will become an island again. And this is called a tombolo. Okay, so there we have our four features. In this diagram, you can see those features again. So here is the curving feature that doesn't quite make it across the bay, and it's got a salt marsh behind it. That's number one. Number two is when the beach does grow right across the bay, and it traps part of the water from the bay behind it. So there's two features here. Number three is when the beach grows out to meet an island. And number four is just the billions of small particles of sand that pile up along the coast. And I've actually mentioned number four because actually number four is features in number 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so there are the features, and you have to name them. Okay, to finish off today's lesson, we're just going to start on something that you're going to continue with next lesson. So we're going to learn about the different factors that result in these different landscape features forming. And the first one is the fact that a landscape on the coast is normally made up of lots of different types of rocks. So the first thing you want to do is slowly read through the information on the rock cycle. So what are the different main groups of rocks we've got? And if I just scroll through, you can see that the diagram above has been explained. So figure 2.1 is explained. You just need to spend a little bit of time reading this and possibly highlighting it. So there are three families of rocks. There are the igneous rocks. These are often the hardest rocks. There are the sedimentary rocks. These are normally the softest of all the rocks. As a matter of fact, some are so soft, like chalk, you can even write with them. And the third family of rocks that we have on planet Earth are called the metamorphic rocks. Okay, and to understand how they're actually made, you can read that as well as have a look at this little diagram, which kind of outlines each group of rocks. So why are we learning about rocks? Well, the main thing is outlined in this key idea here. Okay, that certain rocks, like igneous and metamorphic rocks, are often very hard and therefore are very resistant. They're going to be difficult for the sea to erode. They're going to take a long time for the sea to erode away. Okay, softer rocks, often like sedimentary rocks, like clay and chalk, well, because they're so soft, the sea will often wear them away extremely fast. Okay, and because often these rocks are found in the same location, the softer, less resistant rocks just get worn away at a much quicker speed or much quicker rate than the much harder rocks, which are often metamorphic and igneous. And actually, we can see that in the formation of headlands and bays. So the bays represent the area where the rock is softer. So this area here, the rock's going to be soft, whereas this area here, these will probably be much harder rocks. And that's why this piece of land is sticking out much more into the sea. all of the coast being attacked by the sea. It's just that the softer rock is getting attacked much faster. Well, not getting attacked much faster, it's wearing away much faster than the harder rock. And all of that, if you've listened closely, should help you answer task 5. So that's today's lesson. Make sure you complete all 5 tasks and hand in your work.